Hey up everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you all have a wonderful evening or day wherever you may be in the world. It's currently Wednesday night here in England, just under 24 hours until the opening kick-off of the NRL season for 2020. And I'm sure that you're all excited just like I am, because it's been a long off season, 5 months, nearly 6 months. I think the NRL has one of the longest off seasons out of any code or any sport that I can think of. When you compare it to other codes like the Premier League, it's now compared to what the NRL and the fans have to endure and wait. We've also had a lot of off-field scandals, lots of player transfers, lots of interesting things happening in the off-season. I'm sure that you've all been kept up to date with that. So before I start for my tips for round 1 of the NRL season for 2020, I'd just like to say that if you're enjoying the content, if you love the videos, please like, subscribe and share. Click that notification bell so you get an email when I do a new video. And if you've got Facebook, head over to Rugby League History. I run the page there. Link will be in the description below. And I got some good nostalgia on there. The page is going well. So without further ado, let's get into the tips, shall we, for this week. So, round 1, first game, kick-off Thursday night, or it's going to be Thursday morning for me because I'm in England. But it's my team, Parramatta, versus arch rivals Canterbury Bankstown. Now this is an interesting game because there's been a big build-up obviously in the last week. As you all know, Jade Knockenbar and Corey Harawira Naira involved in that scandal which happened up at Port Macquarie. From what I've read, they're both in serious trouble. They've both been suspended, stood down at the moment. They've been given show cause notices. Now, if you've ever had a show cause notice before, it's not a good thing. It basically means that you're sacked unless you've got a very, very good reason as to why you shouldn't be sacked. So it's a massive blow for Canterbury. Corey Harawira and Naira is one of their best players. But it's a derby game, and with derby games, form gets thrown out the window. You look at any sporting code, any sport out there. When you get a derby game or a match between two arch rivals, form goes out the window. It brings out the best, even if a team's struggling. It brings out the best in a team, especially when they're down like Canterbury are at the moment. And if you look at the history, Canterbury, when they've been in trouble in the past, they've always dug deep. That's something about that club that they always manage to pull through. I'll give you a couple of examples. 2004, before the start of the season, they had the rape crisis up at Coffs Harbour. Everyone was calling them rapists. The season was already in disarray. They ended up going out and winning the 2004 NRL Premiership. 2008, wooden spooners. 2009, everyone wrote them off. Ended up coming second and made the preliminary final against us. But anyway, I'm trailing off again. I think that's I'm going to go for an upset here. I really hope, my heart hopes that Parramatta win. But the last 2 times that we've played against Canterbury, they've had our measure. I think this scandal is going to galvanise the playing group. A lot of people have wrote them off. There's a lot of pressure on Parramatta to get that first win of the year. It's at home at Western Sydney Stadium. It's going to be a big crowd. I'm predicting a crowd of about 20,000 because for some reason they put all Parramatta Canterbury games on a fucking Thursday night when people can't get there. So I'm picking Canterbury to win 1-12. So the early kick-off game on Friday gets us Canberra versus the Gold Coast. Now the Gold Coast come into this season with pretty much everyone writing them off, me included. I think that they're going to come last. Nearly all the experts, either on NRL.com, Fox Sports, Wild Whale Sports, have all predicted them to come last. Canberra, as everyone knows, were runners up last year. I think Canberra's going to win this game. Not by 13 plus, I think they're going to win at 1-12. It's going to be at home. I think Justin Holbrook is going to be in for a rude shock a rude initiation process. It's going to be a couple of tough weeks for him because he's come from St Helens where he's been immensely successful, and he's gone to the Gold Coast, and it's going to be a massive culture shock. And I think Canberra are going to start the year off with a win. Now the main game on Friday night gets us North Queensland versus Brisbane, the big derby up in Queensland there. North Queensland are playing at home at their new home ground, which is called the Queensland Country Bank Stadium, which I think is a much better sponsorship name than 1300 Smiles Stadium. I thought that was a fucking daft name of a stadium. It's going to be a sellout crowd up there. Once again, it's a derby match, form, everything gets thrown out the window, anything can happen. There's going to be a lot of fire, lots of passion. Typically, games between these two clubs have been dead close the last 3 or 4 years. They've been decided in most cases by extra time or a point. I think North Queensland are going to win this match 1-12. They'll be looking to make this stadium the same as what Parramatta made Western Sydney Stadium. They're going to try to make it a fortress. Their old home ground was in some years a fortress anyway, but I think they're going to attempt to make this ground a fortress. And I think with the home crowd behind them, they're going to get over. On the Super Saturday, fierce game, early kickoff, Newcastle versus New Zealand. So Newcastle's playing at home at Marathon Stadium, or as it's called now, the McDonald Jones Stadium. I think Newcastle's going to win this game by 13 plus. I know that trial form isn't always a good indicator of how a team will go, but New Zealand's trial form in both the nines and the trial games has been absolutely shocking. They've got one of the most uninspirational head coaches of all time through Stephen Kearney, and I think Newcastle, they generally, well, they started off last year good, the year before that good. I think they'll continue in a similar vein this year, and I'm predicting them to win 13 plus. The second game on Super Saturday is South Sydney versus Cronulla Sutherland. So Cronulla have come into the season with lots of off-field problems. Josh Morris, he's finally been released to go to Eastern Suburbs. Matt Moylan's out injured. Josh Dugan's reportedly not happy. They've got a couple of other issues surrounding the club. South Sydney, lots of hype coming into the year. They're playing at home at Olympic Park, aka ENZ Stadium. It's going to be the official debut match for Latrell Mitchell, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. I'm predicting South to win this match 1-12. I'm predicting the crowd to be quite small, around about the 20,000 mark. Cronulla historically are not a club that has travelling fans. They get good crowds normally at home, but they don't normally travel. They're similar to Manly fans. They don't want to travel outside that little enclave they got there. So I think South will kick off the year with a win. They'll win 1-12. And the final game on Super Saturday brings us Penrith versus Eastern Suburbs, aka the Sydney Roosters, at Penrith Park. Now Penrith, as I said in the NRL prediction video, they're like Forrest Gump. They're a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. Whereas Eastern Suburbs are the reigning NRL premiers and the World Club Challenge winners. Penrith must have looked at the draw and said, fuck, we got the short straw here with our first matches against this club. I'm predicting a good crowd to come out and watch both sides play. It's in a good time slot, but I think Eastern Suburbs will just be a bit too strong. I think they'll win 1-12. It won't be a blowout. I think Penrith will put up a good fight, but Eastern Suburbs will win. On Sunday, so the first kick-off of the day is Manly Warringah versus Melbourne. So Manly's playing this match at home at Brookvale Oval, aka Lotto Land. Manly's gone into this season almost undetected, very quiet. They only made the one big signing, which was Danny Levi. Melbourne likewise. Now it's been really, in terms of off-field problems and people leaving the club, it's been pretty quiet. So both clubs have had a pretty quiet build-up to the year. As I predicted in me 2020 predictions for the year, I've predicted Melbourne to come first. I think that they'll start the season off well. They'll come straight out of the blocks. I'm predicting them to win this match 1-12 over Manly. I think Manly will have a good year as well, but I think on paper Melbourne's got the better, more experienced team. And the last few meetings between these clubs, they've been kind of going back and forth. Manly had that big win down there last year in Melbourne, and then Melbourne come up to Brookvale Oval, and I think they beat them by about 20 or 30 points. But I'm going to go for Melbourne to win. The final game of the round is St George versus West Tigers, and this match is going to be played at Wynn Stadium, aka the old Wollongong Showground. So both clubs go into the match. I think this is going to be a really tough match to pick. As Nick from Australia said, this is a toss of the coin thing, and especially so early in the year, it's difficult to pick certain games, and this is one of them. I think West Tigers will go in the match under the more pressure to win. Not much is expected of St George this year, so I think St George have got more of a free rein to do things as opposed to the West Tigers. I think one thing, if I was the head coach Michael Maguire, I wouldn't be happy with is Joey Leilua coming out and saying that he's the best centre in the game. So before the season's even started, he's already put himself under pressure and put the club under pressure, because if they're not winning games and stuff, it's gonna magnify, and people are gonna go, "You said you were the best centre in the game." I don't know. This is a really tough one. I think I'm gonna go West Tigers to win this match, between 1 to 6 points. It's gonna be a tight match. But I just think that West Tigers are gonna have enough to beat St George. St George, from a coaching perspective, are under a lot of pressure, but on the field, they, as the pundits have said, not really much is expected of them this year. So I'm going to go West Tigers 1 to 6 points. So that's me tips for this week. I'll see how I go. If I don't do well, this might be the only tipping video I do. But if I have a good tipping round, I might consider doing it round 2. But anyway, let me know in the comment section below if you like the video, if you want me to do tipping videos in the future, if you've got any topics or out like that you want to suggest to me, maybe I can do another video about that. Once again, if you love the videos, please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow me on Rugby League History, and I'll catch us all later, and I hope you enjoy tomorrow night.